Welcome to the ECR Retail Loss, Sell More and Lose Less podcast series. Bananas, certainly a very big part of any retailer's food waste budget. For one retailer that joined us on the call recently, it was 60% of their produce and vegetables food waste. I'm joined on this call by Richard Thaleman, the food waste advisor for ECR Retail Loss, and we'll be discussing a recent call where retailers shared their learnings around the benefits and the negatives, if you like, of selling bananas by item, i.e., 18 pence for a banana, as opposed to selling by weight. So join the podcast and hear more about the benefits, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you like, of selling bananas as item pricing. Well, look, we had a session on bananas. It's always an area of interest around the food surplus / waste group. They are quite challenging from a whole supply chain perspective in terms of making sure you don't have too much waste on these products. And we had one retailer sharing quite innovative approach that they were taking to reducing the losses on bananas. And a few others were also trying this approach. It was interesting. Maybe you can explain what you thought and took away as their approach, and maybe what the key learnings were for the retailers.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, as you say, Colin, because bananas are one of the most wasted food items, along with bread and potatoes, as we know. So it's always interesting to try and find solutions for that. Yeah, I thought the case study was interesting. And as you say, I think there's been a number of retailers that have tried looking at single price units versus weight pricing. And I think what you find nowadays as well, particularly in convenience stores, is that they, move towards more of a single price unit anyway. So really, my head was thinking about, maybe the larger stores and how that would fit. But obviously with the case study, we went through a number of those sort of barriers that they'd sort of jumped through on that. So I think really, when I think about it, it'd be interesting to understand really, because I know we talked about, did it reduce waste? And I think there was a definite nod in the room. I think we probably want to dig a little deeper into that, because I know that they had to do some adjustment on how much was in the box, because clearly the supplier at the point of sending them in is still sending them by weight. I don't suppose we're going to be expecting suppliers to start counting individual bananas, but it'd be interesting to see where those 5-10 bananas per box get accounted for, and I assume that that's part of the way that they come up with their pricing for.
Yeah, it was fascinating. You say it was fascinating. One retailer said they assumed 100 in a box, and another assumed 105.
Yes, exactly.
And what, to your point, what wasn't clear, perhaps wasn't able to be shared was, was this driving, assuming less or assuming more, does that lead to a growth in sales, perhaps, because you actually carry more inventory?
Yeah, maybe. So I think it'd be interesting to understand that from a financial point of view, and whether the true sort of results of it reducing waste for them actually comes true in all of those aspects. But also looking at, for people and operationally in stores, they were talking about how actually it's easier, because at the end of the day, colleagues can just count items rather than have to go find scales. And I guess that's more aimed towards convenience stores and smaller stores. Of course, in bigger stores, both those things probably wouldn't ring true. There's probably scales quite nearby that they need. And actually, if they had quite a big banana section, there'd be a lot of individual bananas to count. So I don't suppose it would be too quick for large stores, but I can see how inconvenience that makes it a hell of a lot easier.
And we have seen on a meat and protein how removing the sort of catch weight has led to lower losses, because I guess it's a simpler way of doing it. So just move to this cost £5 for these steaks. They're all £5. Or
yes, yeah, indeed. And I think that the fact of the matter is, I think we delved into what consumers thought about that, and there'll always be a mixed view on whether they feel like it's more expensive per banana, and I think it is for sure. But then again, when you buy most things in convenience shops, also they are more expensive because of the nature of the convenience. So
Yeah.
I don't think people necessarily always look too much into that. But it can be significantly more expensive. I know in my local convenience shops, they sell individual bananas. They're 27p. And if you buy them by comparison in bulk from other stores, they're between sort of 12 and 16p. So it is quite significant.
It does play into that discussion that we had earlier in the year around the push for loose, doesn't it? Which is, I think RAP and the government sort of saying, let's buy more things than that famous chef or whatever, Italian chef. But so it plays into that argument, I suppose, and they might, waste less at home.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that is part of the point, where retailers are being responsible and trying to help consumers waste less at home. It certainly does make you think. If you go and just take a big bunch of bananas and you don't eat them all, obviously you're going to waste some at home. Whereas if you're standing at the fixture and thinking about, well, how many do I actually need because they're 27 pence each, then you'll probably only buy what you need or what you perceive that you're going to need. So, of course, it may well help consumers in waste. So I think there is, definitely a positive side from that aspect. But I think, the calculation, as we said earlier, I think that's a big part of it, and how much, I'm sure this does become more profitable because I guess they calculate the price per banana by saying, well, if we have 100, if we account for 100 bananas in this box, but we paid for 110, the price goes up, and therefore those 510, which was my point earlier, the loss of that financially is okay, but still the question, is begged about, where did they go? That would be my thing. And the other point, when I sort of reflected on this was, if you did move to everything being individual, how would you then differentiate between organic and normal standard bananas? Because they all look the same. It'd be quite a challenge in some of the bigger stores where you've got a bigger range of bananas on the shelf.
Yeah. That's certainly something to think away. I don't know whether we changed anyone's minds or anyone looked. I mean, we had some really good comments from around the world. I mean, not many other retailers were doing this, and we had some big retailers on, of course, from America and Australia and Europe. I don't know whether many heads were turned by this argument.
No, I'm not clear on that either, to be honest, because I think we heard from another retailer saying that they had tried something like this before, and not entirely clear whether they felt like it was the way forward. For a number of reasons. But yeah, and maybe there is a case for in bigger shops where you're doing your weekly shop that buying bulk as in a bunch of bananas is the right way to go. And that's how people shop. When you think about, I think when we had that conversation on loose, it's not like people are going to go and start buying individual potatoes at a price. It's, you buy, and we've discussed before that the convenience of picking up a bag of potatoes, irrespective of the fact we really want to get rid of the plastic bag, is convenient. You pick up a bag and you walk out. So I think maybe that is still true for bananas in some aspects. But what is interesting, and I always found that article interesting, however long ago, the one retailer that started putting their surplus bananas, the ones that would be wasted at the end of the day, into a bag and selling for 25p, I think everybody should be doing that at the end of the day, to be honest. And that would clear through everything. You would get a return back on that. And of course, as everybody knows, you can always do something with bananas.
Yeah, to your point, bread, beer and all the rest of it. Yeah, we did have certainly that. Although a lot of energy came up on that particular discussion, wasn't there? This one retailer was doing exactly what you said, and others were really picking up on it, because one of the problems about the bananas in bunches, if you don't want that many, you peel off the banana probably badly, and you're left with, as you say, lots of orphan bananas. So yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway, wasn't it? To sort of bag them up and sell them at a special price. But of course, you need a work process around that and sort of a certain amount of rigor. But yeah, that was a good takeaway as well.
Yes. So yeah, altogether an interesting and worthwhile conversation. But as you say, whether or not anybody has turned to thinking that it's something that they want to pursue, I'm not entirely certain.
Or outside their convenience stores, that's for sure. I think it felt like it was something a couple of retailers were already doing in their convenience stores. But no, thank you very much, Richard. We're going to tackle bananas again next year, because I sense there's more to be had in this space in terms of innovation and new thinking, because it is such a big item on the sort of food waste side of things, and especially at the self-checkouts. And I never thought about your organic versus normal bananas. Right, yeah, that would be a really big issue, selling by singles. So yeah, thank you very much. Look forward to see you next time.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to all the ECR retail loss community for the sharing of their knowledge, their research and latest learnings that ensure that we become truly a global platform for learning. My name is Colin Peacock. This is the Sell More and Lose Less podcast, and if you liked it, please subscribe so you automatically get all future episodes. And also, if you think your colleagues and friends might also like it, please ask them to follow ECR Retail Loss on LinkedIn and tune in to our next podcasts. If you didn't like it, then let us know and we'll try and fix it. Either way, see you next time. Thank you again.